Hello my beautiful Hammerhead and welcome back to another Conquest Saturday. So today we have chapter 3 of the rules. It is the out of combat section. So before we dive into this, depending on how much time I have, I will have a little bit more live action sequences and not just the pictures in the rulebook. But what I'm gonna do here, because due to the amount of recording and editing I have to do with Conquest Saturday and Shatterpoint Sunday, I will alternate these two, but on the off week for Conquest Saturday, I will do a little bit of, let's just say, rules clarification thing on the week after that. So if I have the time, I will record a couple of things depending on your questions and just clarify them in another video. So, but let's dive in. We have here all of the things we had in chapter 2, by the way. Here's the action list. We have march, charge, rally, reform, take aim and shoot, and of course pass. Pass is the one that I personally think that I don't have to explain to you, because it's your turn again. So the first action is, of course, march. Marching is basically just moving. You have your march characteristic on every profile for every unit, and that is, well, the thing that you can walk. Yeah, well, that's basically just it. Of course, this is only possible when you're not in contact with an enemy regiment, and this is the only one that you can do twice in a turn. So your second activation can also be a march action. So again, the distance is just the characteristic in inches again. The direction is just forward. You can turn your regiment a little bit. It's just called performing a wheel. And there you measure from the outside of the regiment, and then you move forward up to the maximum of what you're allowed to move. With your second march action, you can just, again, double the amount and you can wheel a second time. So you can do all your movement shenanigans you want. You can walk through your own regiments. So if you have a cavalry unit, you can just walk over infantry unit as an example. The only thing that you have to watch out for is you are not able to stand on top. That also makes sense. If you have not enough march in your first activation, you have to use your second march to walk further. So then we have the reinforcement zone and the reinforcement line. Those are just, we had in chapter 2, when your light, medium and heavy units come into play. The reinforcement zone is just your table edge. You can walk from there into it. The reinforcement line is something that is really fascinating for me personally, because the further you go into the battlefield with your units, the furthest unit from you, the backside of the regiment that's looking in your direction, is the reinforcement line. So you can mark it with a pen on the side of the battlefield, or with basically anything, a token, another unit card or something like that. I don't know, I don't care. You can use whatever you want. That means everything you want to bring into the game can come from the sides. But to that we will come in a moment, because the important thing here is your enemy can push your reinforcement line back further to you. That is also really simple for your enemy, because if your enemy has a light unit that is really fast, be it a flying unit, a light cavalry unit or something like that, it can just run past your regiment and it pushes your reinforcement line back to you, which is really a nice way to balance this out, so not everything comes from the sides. The reinforcement line, also really important, is determined every time your round starts. So reinforcing, again, there is just the regular way where you can just walk into the battlefield from your table edge. And again, with the reinforcement line, you can come from the sides. There is but the possibility that you are not able to. Because first of all, if your regiment is so big, you either need to use your second march action to walk into the battlefield. But if nothing is possible, because there's just stuff standing in the way or anything else, your regiment returns back to reserve and comes in automatically the next round. Also here, really important, this does not count to the regiment that automatically passes your reinforcement roll. So you get basically +1 or +2, however regiments failed to come that round. Then we have the charge action. Charge is really simple because that is just your move into battle with the enemy. Here you of course have to see the enemy regiment, it has to be in line of sight for it, and you are only allowed to charge 1 unit. You have to declare 1 unit to be the target. Then you roll a dice and that you add just to your march characteristic. If you roll enough to get into combat, then it's fine, you just move your regiment into close combat. If it fails, it is called a failed charge, which we will talk about in a moment. With the charge move, so when you move your regiment directly to your enemy, you have to move in a straight line. As soon as you touch the enemy regiment, you have a free wheel movement, so you can just close onto the enemy with a 90-degree move. That one is free, it's just so to show you, yeah, your guys are just now in close combat. That's basically just it. If there is something that prevents you from the charge move, then again it's called a failed charge. That may be because you charged with a flying unit over another unit and you don't have enough space in between. That is just as an example. Or a garrison, some terrain features that are impassable, whatever. One of the things that are really important is that I saw about once or twice, it wasn't that much, is when your regiment is not able to finish the wheel movement, then because it's just 3 or 4 degrees left, it's not possible to do it flush because of reasons, whatever that might be, the enemy regiment must close this one. Only if the enemy regiment is already in close combat, that's not possible, then your charge again has failed. So there might be moments when your enemy has placed their regiment because it is impossible for you then to charge because there is another regiment there. Let's just say there are 2 standing side by side. You push the unit that you don't want to charge away from 1 inch. And that 1 inch move, of course, again, is only possible, if it is allowed due to other reasons from the terrain or anything like that, or another regiment is in the way. If this 1 inch move is not possible for the unengaged enemy regiment, your charge again failed. But that doesn't really happen that much. The beautiful thing is you can charge through your own units. Again, we have the example with the cavalry who wants to charge through an infantry unit. That is totally possible. That is not a problem. The only problem occurs when your charge is not long enough to go through the unit, and yeah, well, you have to stop right behind your infantry unit in that case. So where you attack your enemy depends on what you see the most of. It is always more than half of what you see. So is it the flank, is it the front, is it the rear of the unit? That is just shown here in the diagram. It is really just that. If you charged successfully, you are automatically inspired, which lets you hit your enemy a little bit better. You get a +1 to hit. So for failing charges, we have here a little bit of, we already had the one with cavalry, friendly regiment. You just stand right behind them. Usually you have you still move to a certain amount. That amount is your dice roll. If you have rolled a 3, that is the amount of inches you move forward, up to the point where you stand at least 1 inch away from enemy units or garrison terrain. If it is in the final stages of the charge and you are not able to go flush with your enemy, you again have to go back 1 inch. Also important, if the charge action was your first activation, you lose your second activation for this round. Then we have impact attacks. Impact attacks, well, it's already in the name. If you have something really bulky and it charges into the enemy unit, it inflicts damage. Impact attacks are only available to those regiments that have the impact, in brackets, any number, rule in the special rules. So if you have 3 knights in a regiment and have the impact of 2, you have 6 dice to inflict damage upon your enemy. Those are resolved like the clash actions, which we'll come to in another video. But they are not affected by other special rules. It's just really you run into it, roll your dice without any modifiers or anything, and that's just it. And your enemy has to do save rolls and a morale check. If you have more than 3 knights, as an example, there is a 4th one in the back, that also inflicts that amount of impact to the enemy. Then we have take aim as an ability. Take aim is basically just really that. You say you're taking aim as your first activation, and then the second activation you shoot. You just shoot a little bit better because you get a +1 to hit. Then we have a rally action. A rally action is when your regiment gets the broken status, but that is also something that we will talk about in another video. Reform is also really basically just that. You are reforming your regiment. You can basically just reform. It's already in the name. I'm sorry, I have no other words for that. Your regiment like you want, as long as it's still a legal formation for it. The amount that you can move in that one is, of course, again, the lowest march characteristic in the regiment. Then we have volley, which is just shooting. If your unit has the barrage, in bracket X, special rule, it can shoot. And that's basically just it. The only thing you have to watch out here for is choosing a target and line of sight. So there could be obstructions because of buildings, because of other regiments. Please remember our last video where we had the heights of regiments. We have some brutes who can shoot. They have size 2. They can shoot over infantry. But if you have an infantry unit that tries to shoot through another infantry unit, which are the same height, that's not possible. There is also something called effective range. Effective range is basically just take the amount of inches that you have for your barrage, for your shooting activity, and that is just the maximum amount where you can shoot to. Halve it, and let's just say you can shoot 24 inches. 12 inches and below, you get +1 attack per stand, because that is the effective range for your unit to shoot. If you have multiple things that you can shoot in one regiment, and by that I mean, let's just say the front arc or the flank arc, then you will do that separately. because let's just say we have the new and beautiful Leonine Avatara. 2 of them see the flank, 1 just can shoot the front. Then you roll for those separately, because the front may have shields or any other special rules that give them a bonus for, well, their defense. The number of shots is usually pretty simple. It's just the number and then you multiply it per stand that you have. But sometimes that is a very special thing just for shooting. If one stand doesn't see the enemy, it cannot shoot, so you take it out of the equation. And after that, you add the +1 per stand if it is in effective range. Rolling to hit is really simple. You have the volley characteristic in your unit. If it is a 2, you hit on 1 and 2. But if you have done your take aim activation as your first activation, you get a +1 for it. So a 1, 2 and 3 are hits against your enemy. Then of course we get the defense rolls for your enemy. There your enemy can choose either the armor or the evasion characteristic that are on the unit's character sheet. It is of course either or, so that is really important. And sometimes you have modifiers for your shoot characteristic, which will negate the armor of your enemy. So that is basically just shooting. How to remove casualties and how to do morale checks we will do in another video. For this one, just remember that shooting, if not specified in the special rules, does not cause morale tests. And then of course, again, we can just pass and let our enemy do their thing. That's basically it with chapter 3. Again, it sounds like a lot more than it really is. So again, if you have any questions, just tell me and I will make a short video for next Saturday where we will skip chapter 4 so I can continue on making Shatterpoint Sunday videos. But the week after that we have chapter 4 and those are the combat actions, which is basically just hitting each other in the face with blunt objects. So if you have more questions, please leave your thoughts and questions in the comment section down below. I am keen to know what you have to say. And while you're down there, please remember to do all the YouTube stuff, because hitting buttons is not only fun. Why? Because that way we can build a bigger community and talk more wargaming almost every day. And by that I of course mean like and subscribe, and if you want you can support me with the links in the description box down below. But until then, have a great day my friend, stay fantastic, stay hydrated, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, bye, bye.